The city of Milwaukee has 702 signalized intersections, that is, intersections controlled by stop-and-go lights. And there are a number of reasons why they're located where they are.
Well, they're primarily decided upon by the traffic volumes on the roadways, potentially by the spacing of one intersection relative to another, also by just traffic patterns in the area, and also pedestrian movements. Traffic lights are controlled primarily by small computers that are located at each intersection. And those computers know the time of the day, and we adjust the light pattern and the sequence of operation based upon primarily the time of the day, and in some cases, the amount of traffic that's at an intersection.
There are also specific reasons why Milwaukee's traffic lights are permanently mounted, while in much of the rest of the country they are on overhead wires.
It's a little bit less expensive to use overhead wire-mounted signals, but they blow in the wind, and if they come down, they can injure a driver or a pedestrian. And we feel that the permanent mounted signals do not move in the wind. They're better visible to drivers.
You'll find traffic signal crews on the job 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in all kinds of weather. Downtown residential development prompted this new installation at Chicago and Water Streets early in March.
And what we're doing here is installing a new controlled intersection. So you have an intersection where there are no stop and go lights, and our crews come out after given the print from engineering and go ahead and install it.
What goes into that decision to put lights at an intersection like this?
Well, there are traffic counts that the department also does where they'll check traffic patterns, but generally they'll look at the area, the demographics, the increase in mercantiles, the increase in residencies. In this particular instance, this area is becoming more populated with businesses, and there are condos going up, so we have to meet the needs of the citizens of Milwaukee.
Bad weather is one of the major factors in accidents which knock down traffic signals or computer boxes. In 1997, 368 lights had to be replaced.
That is a light that could be attached, a stop-and-go light that could be attached to a signal standard, which is something that just holds ours, or a light pole. And that's a good chunk of our time spent. We also have control cabinets. Those are the silver or wooden boxes on every corner. In 97, we had about 14 of those taken out by individuals. On a knockdown, what will happen is either the police or a citizen or the transit company will call us, and then we'll dispatch a mechanic and a worker, and they'll go out, they'll retrieve the refuse or the knockdown signal, and then what they'll do is go back to our shop, they'll build a new one, meaning actually putting together a new light and a pole, and then they'll take that back out and install it.
The city also has a preventive maintenance program.
We have ongoing replacements, or what we call our outages. And that is, again, a police department or a transit or sanitation, a citizen will call up and they'll tell us that a light is out at a particular intersection. We will dispatch then one of our electrical workers to go and replace that lamp or a broken lens or a visor that may be missing. Along with that, a parallel approach is we do group replacing. Every 3 years we replace a third of the intersections lamps. That means the reds and the greens. We don't replace the yellows unless they're out because they're not on as long.
It may seem at times that the lights are working against you, but it's the city's intention to keep you going, not stop you unnecessarily.
And the goal is not to stop people unnecessarily. It's to minimize the number of stops, to hopefully encourage people to drive at or near the speed limit. And we want to cut down on the amount of time that they're delayed. And we want to cut down on the amount of time they're idling in traffic, because if they're stopped at a stoplight, it's causing a waste of energy, and also it's causing an increase in exhaust emissions.
Sometimes the city workers get a bad rap, but as I said earlier, we're out here all the time, and in bad weather, good weather, it doesn't matter. We have to provide a service to the citizens of Milwaukee. We have to keep these intersections safe, and we're responsible for a tremendous amount of liability by not doing that. And by us being here in all weather, I think it says something for the people that work for the city of Milwaukee.
By the way, if you demolish a traffic light or computer, you'd better have insurance. The city will try to collect from you up to $1,300 for a signal standard, more if it's on a light pole, and up to $8,000 for a computer control cabinet.
began approximately 1990 as a project that was funded through the state and federal monies and local monies through the city of Milwaukee. And community liaison agencies that work with our department in reporting suspected drug activities at locations of homes throughout the city of Milwaukee.
The investigation into possible sale or manufacture of drugs at this Northside home resulted in several arrests and evictions of the tenants in January. Set up to attack drug houses directly, the drug house abatement law also requires landlords to get involved.
The owner has to respond by law to abate this problem, meaning get rid of the drug problem. And in our experience with the drug abatement process, it's a very high compliance rate by property owners once that we have established through our investigative techniques that these violations of law are occurring.
Here are some signs that may indicate a problem. Lots of traffic at late or early hours, or a lot of people just hanging around. Buyers may signal the dealer in some way. Visitors stay for only a short time and don't appear to be friends of the tenants. There may be a monthly pattern to the traffic. Many dealers will have lookouts, and these may be children. Drug dealers often protect their business with alarms or guard dogs. Probably the most obvious sign of illegal activity in a residential structure is the presence of drug paraphernalia. You can take action and report such activities anonymously.
Hello, drug hotline. I'd like to report a drug house. I don't have to give my name, do I?
No, this is an anonymous hotline. All I need is some information. Do you know who lives there? Do you have a description of what they look like?
The entire city of Milwaukee is covered by the drug abatement program. Our hotlines are manned from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays. On the west side, dial 931-7300. The northwest side, 462-7890. The northeast side, 264-5557. And the south side, 643-1968.
Approximately 11,000 properties within the city of Milwaukee have been investigated as possible drug abatement or drug nuisance problems within the city of Milwaukee. Well over 90% of those problems, those properties have been addressed through the drug house abatement law.
Working together, we can eliminate drug dealing. One of the most successful parts of the drug abatement program is landlord training.
A good 80% of criminal activity does happen out of rental units. And the misunderstanding between what the landlord's role is and the police role and the neighbor's role in this, they need some help. And when we started talking to landlords, we understood that they didn't understand the power or the responsibility that they have. That's quite different than the neighbors and the police. So there was also other efforts on reaching out to landlords, training them on what are the codes out there, what exists, how to help them run their business, instead of just trying to beat them with a code enforcement stick. There has to be another avenue.
That avenue was the landlord training program. Since 1993, it has trained over 8,000 landlords with 150,000 rental units. With advice on screening, rental agreements, and on how to recognize drug activity and drug paraphernalia, the program has helped change the face of the rental business in Milwaukee.
We know from doing this program that a good 60% of the landlords in the city are mom and pops who have less than 6 units, who have never had any training or education for the business that they've gotten into. And lo and behold, you know, it just comes back to the educational effort again, that if you give people the proper information, they're going to do the proper thing.
The landlord training program has also produced a more detailed property management training program and compacts between landlords.
And when they get together talking about who they're evicting and why, so other landlords don't go and rent to this problem, keeping it in the neighborhood. Police meet with them, talking about who are the problem tenants, who are their friends, what are the cars, what are the license plates that go with that. I mean, these landlords, when they get together and use the same screening process, the same rental agreement, they can clean up a neighborhood in no time flat. 81% of the people say they've changed the way they manage their property. They changed their even implemented a screening process, put together a rental agreement instead of just a handshake. That 63% of the people have said they've decided not to rent to someone because of the information that they've learned in the landlord training program.
No matter what the violation, either a criminal offense or a city ordinance, it does reduce quality of life in a neighborhood. So our mission is to enhance that quality of life for everybody within a community, and the drug abatement program is part of that.
The model for the historic South Side poster is St. Stanislaus Church. The first Polish Catholic church in urban America was built in 1872, and its twin spires are among the most recognizable landmarks in the city. Churches have always been important here. For many people, the historic South Side is a cluster of neighborhoods defined by parish boundaries. The tallest buildings still tend to be churches. Some, like St. Josaphat, with its distinctive dome, are architectural masterpieces as well.
Well, the building materials came from the United States Customs Office and Federal Building in Chicago around the turn of the century. It was delivered to Milwaukee on about 500 railroad flat cars. The story is told that the people themselves dug the foundations for the church, and the ground was moved by everybody, including women in their aprons, and brought it all down to what is currently Barron Park.
St. Josaphat was the fifth highest freestanding dome in the world when it was built in 1901. As it was then, the church remains an important part of the South Side redevelopment and growth.
A basilica is like an honorary title that is given to a church, and is given specifically for the fact that a church is cited for its pilgrimage value, people coming to it on pilgrimage, people coming because it is of some significance and importance for the Catholic faith, and then also significant because of its architectural or historic beauty. Our part of the work that has been done here is really trying to make sure that the neighborhood continues to grow and that the church continues to thrive. Throughout all of these years, the people have been the ones who have taken care of everything here, and there's a very strong sense of neighborhood commitment to the church. And there's been a strong sense of neighborhood commitment as this is still the Polish home church, as it were, for all the people of Polish descent. And it is also what we like to see is just to try and open it up and be as much a community church as it possibly can be, and invite all sorts of people to come. Now, as the neighborhood changes, we're seeing a lot of new ethnic groups coming in, and fortunately and happily, they seem to be able to make this their church as well. And everybody, I think, as far as it being a Catholic church, it truly is there's a great sense of the history of the South Side, and a great sense of the ongoing development of the South Side. And the Basilica is a big part of that.
The historic South Side is a large neighborhood, from Greenfield Avenue to Oklahoma, from 1st Street to 27th. It was identified for many years with one ethnic group, the Poles, and a thriving business district, Mitchell Street, now called Historic Mitchell. While many merchants belong to other ethnic groups, it was dubbed the Polish Grand Avenue.
After the war, World War II, in the early 50s, in that era, it was this street was a booming street. And I've been told, although I've never really checked up on it, but I heard it was one of the busiest commercial strips in the country.
Commercial development was not, of course, limited to Mitchell, and for years nearly every block had a tavern, bakery, butcher shop, or grocery store. But Mitchell was the South Side's downtown for a long time, and is still one of the biggest commercial strips in the city. Mitchell Street may no longer be the Polish Grand Avenue, but its stores, including the 100-year-old Goldman's department store and a cluster of bridal shops, continue to draw customers from throughout the area.
Many places there are buildings that are individually designated as historic, but Mitchell Street from 5th to 14th, the whole extent of it is a historic district. So we're trying to be more sensitive with our building renovations here to complement the building's original design.
Historic South Side homes range from what some would consider mansions along Layton Boulevard to the more modest Milwaukee duplexes and bungalows. The Polish flat is the area's most distinctive housing type. This is also an area of the city known for its alley houses. It was the most densely built area of the city at the turn of the century. The blending of different cultures has produced some interesting sights: Korean taekwondo to a Polish deli, the Serbian gourmet house, the Irish castle, the Mexican Tres Hermanos.
Within a 1-mile radius of this intersection, there's about 15,000 households and about $500 million worth of household income to tap into. And I can't think of many neighborhoods that can say the same.
So it'll keep on growing.
Well, I think that we will make history as well as be historic. It's not going to be the way it used to be. It's going to be different, and it's going to be busy, and it's going to be vital, and it surely is going to be exciting, but it's going to still be different.
The south side also features the last horse watering trough in the city near 16th and Burnham. The area's 3 largest parks, including Kosciuszko, are predictably named for Polish-American heroes of the American Revolution. The past is very much a part of the present in the historic South Side. Forest Home Cemetery dates back to 1850, just 4 years after Milwaukee became a city. The cemetery is so much a part of history that a Halls of History exhibit was opened featuring famous pioneers of our city, like the founder of the South Side, George Walker, our 3rd mayor, and our 2nd mayor, Byron Kilbourne. The halls feature chromium windows with pictures from the past, large murals depicting the city over the years, and pictures and biographies of many famous Milwaukeeans.
That particular idea initially came from one of our past general managers and president by the name of George Wilcox, and it's his idea in terms of to memorialize these people that have some historic significance to the city, state, and or nation here in Milwaukee, and having biographical sketches done on each of the individuals here. A lot of the history is all here, from the original founders and so forth. You can trace the history of Milwaukee through the people that are buried here. And being one of the first cemeteries in Milwaukee, we have a lot of the history here. A group of committee people that have historic significance in terms of historians from Milwaukee that made the selection.
The choice of Milwaukee beer barons was an easy selection. Valentin Blatz, Joseph Schlitz, and Frederick Pabst are among the early brewers here. Outside, there's a brewer's corner with the Blatz monument, largest in the cemetery, a memorial to the Schlitz family, and another for members of the Pabst family, all in one section.
It is open on a daily basis between 8:30 and 4. The only time period that we are closed is basically 3 days: Christmas Day, New Year's Day, and also Thanksgiving. Other than that, it is open to the public. We do have interesting history in terms of early history of Milwaukee, and this particular facility brings that out.
Like other areas of the city, the historic South Side continues to evolve. It has taken on the diversity of a big city and is one of the most culturally diverse areas in the state. Flooding raged through a number of Milwaukee neighborhoods in 1997 and 1998. Some people lost their homes, many others personal belongings. They and city officials wanted something to be done so it wouldn't happen again. This project along the Menominee River is one of the ways the Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District is addressing the problem of flooding in 6 area watersheds.
What we've got going throughout the district jurisdiction is a water course system management plan. Menominee watershed being one of those watersheds that we're analyzing. We're analyzing 6 watersheds. And part of that Menominee River watershed plan, we identified a problem with some of the debris, the trees. There's been some pipes and some man-made debris that's accumulated over the years. And we were concerned about some of that debris floating downstream during a large storm event and possibly blocking some of the bridges downstream. So what the district's doing is a one-time cleanup, and what we're trying to do with this piece of work that we're looking at right here is to make it a demonstration project. We want to determine exactly how much we think this is going to cost. And so we've taken this area because it's kind of the worst stretch that we identified through the Menominee River. And just to determine what the costs are, and then at that point we'll go back to our commission at the district and we'll say it costs so much per mile on the Menominee, and we think it should be done on Oak Creek, Root River, some of the other watersheds. So we are going to extend it into some of the other watersheds as we go. But as far as our total watershed plan, we are looking at upstream detention, we're looking at channel lowering, floodplain lowering, buyouts of possible structures, floodproofing of different structures, and so forth. So the watershed plan that we're doing for the Menominee River is a much larger scale than what we're looking at right here.
Further down the Menominee River in the Valley Park area of Pigsville, MMSD is looking at another alternative, levees or flood walls.
Out of the entire Menominee River, we've got approximately 250 structures that have been damaged. In the Valley Park neighborhood, approximately 139 structures have experienced damage right now. So what we're looking at to do to solve that problem is to build a levee through that neighborhood along the river, redo some of the parks, try to enhance the neighborhood as part of our flood control project, and yet still provide them the protection that they need.
Milwaukee obviously is not alone in its efforts. In DuPage County, Illinois, a quarry is used to store up to 3 billion gallons of stormwater. Lake County, Illinois has developed a 42-acre wetland and detention storage area. Wetlands and detention areas are two projects to be implemented in the Lincoln Creek area of the city of Milwaukee starting this year.
People in the Lincoln Creek area and in other areas of the city, but I'm going to say predominantly in Lincoln Creek, have suffered from 2 very severe flood storms in the last 2 years. Significant damage in the millions of dollars. So what we did, and when I say we, it was I think really 3 or 4 members of the council. It was myself, Alderman Corwich, Alderman Richards, Alderman Murphy. Met with representatives from MMSD to include the executive director, Ms. Spray Kinney, to say, you know, something has to be done more expeditiously. MMSD, Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District, did have plans in the works, and we had a number of meetings with residents in the area on the Lincoln Creek flood plan, and we, or they, after meeting with a number of alderpersons, agreed to fast forward their plan.
Lincoln Creek is nearly 9 miles long and drains a 21 square mile urban watershed. It ends in Lincoln Park, where the creek joins the Milwaukee River. The 5-year, $70 million flood control project will include continued removal of debris and vegetation, lowering the floodplain in some segments, widening and deepening the creek in other areas, and building 2 detention ponds. In addition, the city plans to remove 18 homes in the area of 46th and Congress. The Havenswood State Forest will have 1 detention pond located within its boundaries. Construction should begin in July. Part of the pond will function as a wetland and education area. The other will be located north of Green Tree Road in the area of 51st Street. A construction contract was awarded last month. Each pond will store up to 39 million gallons of water, roughly the same as the gross retail area of Northridge Mall.
This detention pond will provide off-site storage so that we can do some channelization, channel lowering options with habitat considerations. We're going to create habitat along the creek, and since that might increase the downstream discharges, we're putting in detention ponds throughout the creek to offset that increase. What it does is it basically cuts the peak off for the storm, so as the water rises, it spills into this detention pond. It holds that water until the flood passes, and then it releases that water at a later time. So it spreads out the flow but you don't get those high peaks that you get with a normal flood.
I guess with natural disasters, though, you can never say never, but I would think that to the degree that we would have any type of flood damage that we had in 97, 98, we won't have.
Milwaukee is not generally subjected to area-wide flooding, but severe storms can flood streets, result in sewer backups or water-filled basements. The health department has a number of cleanup tips to assist property owners and tenants to handle such situations.
First of all, they should consider the water contaminated. It may contain bacteria, raw sewage, and also viruses, which can cause illness. So they want to protect their body from coming in contact with the flood water. We suggest wearing boots and also using rubber gloves when you're cleaning in a basement that's been flooded. If the flood water reached the area of the refrigerator where it could seep into the refrigeration unit or freezer and contaminate the product, then you'd have to throw out the products. If not, it would just mean making sure that the product's been kept at a safe temperature. If the flood water, if they've been damaged by the flood water or standing in the flood water, you need to be concerned about electrical shock. And then the other thing would be things that are stored down in the basement, like refrigerators, refrigeration units, furnaces. Things like bedding, especially if it's a mattress, it's pretty hard to clean that. So in most cases, I think people will just have to throw those out. Anything that has soft material that's been soaked in the flood water needs to be thrown out.
First Lady Hillary Clinton visited the Lincoln Creek area last August. It was then declared a federal disaster area. 1,100 Lincoln Creek residents filed claims for federal, county, and city funds, but only about one-third of those whose homes were damaged were able to get financial help. Officials believe the flood control project will reduce the flood risk.
City of Milwaukee and Milwaukee Metropolitan Sewerage District, and working cooperatively with the county, we have responded to the crisis.
We've had a lot of cooperation. DNR, county parks, the city, everyone's been very cooperative on Lincoln Creek. I think over the next 2 construction seasons, you're going to see a lot of work done on Lincoln Creek.